What's up, y'all? It's Lane with Circle G. Today we wanted to bring you guys along on a road trip. We're going out of state to look at a horse. Thought it'd be fun to bring you guys along and show you how we do it. Let's go. Package secured. Also, made with love. All right, so I'm gonna go over a little bit of my process when I'm going to look at a horse and I'm potentially gonna buy it. Things I look for, I even go. Some of the deciding factors, as well as things I'll look for when we actually get there. So first thing you want to decide is what kind of discipline you want to get into and what age range you're looking for, right? So whether you're looking for a weanling to a yearling, so a young prospect, or something that's 2 to 3 years old that's maybe been lightly started or hasn't been started yet, or if you want something older, in that 4 to 12 range, that's what you have to decide. Once you narrow that down, at least for me, what I do, once I narrow that down, I kind of will look at the market and kind of see what the market determines the average price of a horse in that category is. So if I have a really well-bred yearling, kind of what are the ballpark of those going for versus 2 and 3 year olds versus an aged horse, maybe 4 to 6 years old, 8 years old, something like that. The next thing I'll look at is conformation and breeding. So I personally only buy horses that are registered. Great horses can be really good horses, but I find resale value and just insurance for you as a rider, if something were to happen, if you wanted to breed it or whatever else, you're a little more covered with a registered horse. So I look at the conformation, look to see if the horse is balanced, if it has any major deformities, any injuries, nasty scars, maybe his feet are pretty crooked, he's got a really big head, stuff like that. Not a huge deal sometimes, but sometimes they are. So I definitely want to make sure I get pictures of all sides of the horse, and then I'll look at the papers, and that's mostly just to make sure the owner matches the owner I'm talking to, the age is what they're telling me it is, and you get to see a little bit about the lineage. If you trace it back far enough, it'll be most likely semi well-known or well-known family members, to kind of determine maybe what kind of mind it might have, what kind of athletic ability. Sorry, it's really bumpy. So great job by our camera lady though. And then after that, I'm looking at the video, right? So I'm going to request a video as recent as possible. I'm going to see kind of how the horse moves, how it carries its head, what kind of cues the owner is having to do, right? Whether they're using a lot of hand, a lot of leg, or the horse is guiding around pretty easy, whether they're inside or outside. Get a good video, and that'll tell you a lot about your horse. And then probably the last thing I'm looking at, which is probably one of the more important ones, is the price. Now, obviously, it can be a wide variance depending on what kind of category, what kind of discipline you're looking to get into. For us, it's mostly ranch horses, reining horses, and just overall trail horses as well. But I'm looking at price, and I like to try to find something that I can get bought cheap enough that if something were to happen, if I had to turn around and sell it tomorrow due to a family emergency or a health issue or whatever, I could get that money back that I paid for it or close to it. I don't want to get something that's a big risk, if I think it'll be hard to get that back out of it without putting a bunch of time and effort into it. For us, that's a big part of our program, is we'll buy something that needs work and we'll make it a really good horse before we sell it. I'm not a huge fan of just going to get one and then trying to turn it for a few $100 or $1,000 or whatever, because you're essentially putting your name on something that you don't know much about. So we try to spend quite a bit of time with them and really get them horses where we want them and where we're proud and happy to sell them as horses off our farm. Once I determine what this horse is worth, then I'll try to figure out how much under that I can get it bought for, and then I look at top end of what I think the horse can bring. And now I don't always just shoot for the top. Hey, I think this horse can bring X amount of money. It's like, okay, this is what I think the top end is, this is kind of the median, can I hit in between, and what kind of margins am I making on that? That's kind of our process for that. And I tell you what, it takes a lot of looking. I mean, I'll look at horses sometimes 2-3 hours a day, it seems like, just scrolling through, sending messages, finding information. I kind of have streamlined my process where I have a thing, I know what I want to look for. So if I'm gonna look for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, that's what I'm looking for. I know about what kind of the market is for them. And when I reach out to the owners, the ones that are kind of no nonsense and have information for me and have videos for me and will talk on the phone, those are the ones I usually can get a deal done with because I know what I'm getting into. If something doesn't feel right or seem right about the deal, it's probably best to just walk away. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. The last thing is negotiation, right? Having those numbers predetermined in your head is super helpful and allows you to kind of move within parameters that that are set. At least that's what I do. When I negotiate, I like to do it over the phone, but texting's fine. Some people don't feel comfortable doing that. That's not a big deal. I always do try to get the best deal possible, but I don't want to obviously insult the buyer, or sorry, excuse me, the seller. A lot of times if there's a big discrepancy between what I think the horse is worth and what I think the top end is worth and what I think it's at right now, if there's a big discrepancy between what I think it is and what the seller thinks it is, I usually won't even try talking to them. If I'm at a horse I think's worth $8,000 and they're selling it for $20,000, we're probably not going to get together. We're not going to be able to meet, a $12,000 gap and try to meet somewhere in the middle. So I usually won't even entertain those or won't even look at those horses. And, a really important thing is, talk about deposits and down payments. You want to be very wary of doing that just because there's so many scammers and so many ways to lose out on your money. I will do it if the amount is small enough and it's, if something were to happen and I'm not out a bunch of money. I know some people, and I've had clients send tens of thousands of dollars, sight unseen. Now we're pretty fortunate to have a little bit of a reputation and a name so they can trust that, but sometimes you're just dealing with individuals you don't know anything about. So definitely be careful with that. All right, the last thing is when it comes to deposits, kind of how I go about them. So my number one rule is I never send a deposit to anybody unless I've talked to them on the phone. And you got to understand, even then, there's a risk of, maybe potentially being a scammer or them taking your money and running, things like that. So what I always try to do is get all their contact information first, address, cell phone number, name, all that stuff, before I send any type of money. And then I also will send a test, so I'll send like $1 on whatever payment method I'm going to use, make sure it clears and goes through, and then I'll send the remaining amount. I try to send as little as possible, but sometimes a deposit or a good sized deposit will help close a sale, so that can be used to your advantage. Just make sure you talk to them and let them know, hey, I know, because most people, a deposit is non-refundable, which is understandable, but what I make it really clear is like, hey, I will expect the refund if the horse is grossly misrepresented, right? So super underweight, there's something majorly cosmetic done, an injury or a big scar you didn't notice, or the horse doesn't ride at all like the video shows. So those are things I talk about beforehand to make sure there's an understanding, hey, if something ain't right, I want my money back. And most of the time, as long as they're an honest seller, that's no problem. The last thing to think about is travel time and fuel expenses. That's usually not a big enough deal to make or break a negotiation, but if you had to travel 8, 10, 12, 15 hours for a horse, you want to make sure you factor in the time and the fuel if you're going to go get it yourself, or the cost of a shipper. So that's something else to think about. But that's kind of the process of how we go about finding horses, especially one we're going to look to maybe resell in the future. Those are some big things to think about. Obviously, if they're horses for us to show or for us for our own personal horses, it's slightly different. We're not really so concerned about price and resale value as we are about getting the most out of our money when it comes to that individual horse. But it should be a fun experience. We really enjoy traveling around looking at horses. You get to meet a lot of cool people, and sometimes deals end up turning into other deals, or you have other horses looped in, or you develop a new contact for down the road. So don't make it to be a high anxiety, high pressure thing. Take advantage of it and make as much fun as it can be. So that's kind of our process. Like I said, we'll be there probably less than an hour. So that's the process we use when we go looking one to buy. One last thing I just remembered. Make sure you type in the address on Google Maps especially, and look at the property. Make sure it's a horse facility of some kind. It could be a place that even can have horses. And then also go on Facebook or Google and Google the address, because it will show you, you know, if it's a barn that's, you know, already established horse business, it'll most likely have the name online. And so what that allows you to do is make contact and make sure that the owner of that address at that facility is the same person you've been talking to. We've actually had people show up to our farm and neighboring farms looking to buy a horse that they said they found online. They sent a deposit down, and then our address was the address they were given. And obviously we didn't have the horse, and it was someone scammed them. So what a lot of people do is they'll make pretty nice profiles and pictures and videos of different horses they found online, change the name and price, will accept deposits, and then put down a random equine facility address. So people show up, it's like, oh, it is a horse barn, but then it has no connection to us whatsoever. So make sure you do some research on the address as well. So apparently they're outside, and I walked right by them. Okay, now that's the last stop. All right, guys, so getting ready to pull up. Some people get weirded out about having a camera, so we'll probably just use our phone and film some clips of me doing different stuff. And then once we get back in the truck, kind of talk you guys through what I found and kind of my thoughts, and we'll see if we bring them home. Stay tuned. All right, so we just finished up. We just left the farm, and we do have a horse with us in the trailer. So Circle G is adding one more member to the bunch. But we weren't able to film just because there was quite a few people in there. The ride really wasn't going, I think, as any of us expected. So we thought it'd be better just to focus on evaluating the horse and seeing what we had. When I got there, I got right in the stall with him. Kind of wanted to see how his manners were. Got in the stall, didn't have great manners. Took him to cross ties, brushed him up, picked his feet, no problem. Took the saddle, no problem. When I got in the arena, I could tell he was a little bit spunky. Maybe he was feeling himself a little bit. They told him it had been 2 days since he'd been ridden last. So I went ahead and did some stuff on the ground, make sure he had some basics, and then I hopped on him. Horse was extremely green, especially for how much training the horse is said to have on him. Sounds like there was a lot of different variables, a couple different trainers, a couple different riders, stuff like that. So did not meet my expectations, but I think the hardest thing, the part of riding horses and evaluating horses is kind of knowing what your end result could be based on where they're at. What kind of problems they're giving you in that moment. Sorry, it's a little bumpy. And seeing where the horse could go. So I'm really excited. I do think there's a lot of potential. There's quite a few bad habits and some behavioral stuff we got to work through. I'm excited to get him home and bring you guys along for some of that. We're going to film as much as we can, so you can kind of see the process from day one till day however long we have him. Wasn't a wasted trip. We're headed back now. Looks like our ETA is around 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, so it's going to be a long day. 5.5 hours here, 5.5 hours back. By the time we get home, we'll give you a quick shot of him. He's pretty dirty. Let you guys see what we got. See you there. All right, guys, so we got in super late last night and didn't really have the energy to do anything. So we literally got home, put him in the barn, fed him, and went to sleep. So figured I'd wait till today to show him off to you guys. And yes, I did wash my shirt, so these are clean clothes. We didn't end up filming much when we got there because we were kind of unsure what we were getting into. There was some concerning parts of the story, but the backstory of this horse. Wasn't quite sure of the situation we were walking into, so we decided not to film anything. I basically just evaluated him from head to toe, got in the stall with him, put my hands all over him, kind of watched and saw how reactive he was, and then went ahead and saddled him up and rode him. Left a lot to be desired under saddle. I went ahead and had the trainer get on him. Pretty much saw a lot of the same stuff that I felt when I was on him. Kind of talked a little bit about price and kind of where we thought we were at and where they were at. We came to an agreement. So there are a lot of things I do like about the horse. Like when I got there, he was pretty dirty, so they hadn't rode him down or worked him down, which is a good sign. I'm always a little bit hesitant if I get there and the horse has been bathed or been worked recently, so that was good. A lot of bad habits. As you can see, he's kind of pushy, kind of been used to being the boss. So we'll give you a quick 360, and you guys can comment down below, let me know what you think. We're gonna start riding him and putting him in our program, and we'll film videos throughout the course of his time with us, and hopefully we can make some improvement. So if there's anything you guys wanna see, let us know. Thanks for watching.